Dear learners, welcome to the Bachelor course on Human Rights. Today we will discuss Special Rapporteurs of the United Nations, which is the backbone of the human rights system at international level. I hope by the end of this lecture, you would be able to understand the rich contributions made by way of the special procedures as well as the permanent procedures. Let us go into some detail of the history of the special procedures system at the UN. In the early days of the United Nations, the Commission on Human Rights, which is the predecessor of the Human Rights Council, focused on elaborating human rights standards. The Economic and Social Council had passed a resolution stating that the Commission had no power to take any action in regard to any complaints concerning human rights. However, in 1965, the Commission on Human Rights was faced with a number of individual petitions from South Africa and other countries and came under considerable pressure to deal with them. As a result, in 1967, the Commission departed from the previous practice and established an ad hoc working group of experts to investigate the situation of human rights in Southern Africa. By way of Resolution 2, the ad hoc working group can be considered as the first special procedure of the Commission on Human Rights. Following the 1973 coup in Chile against President Allende by General Augusto Pinochet, the Commission established an ad hoc working group in 1975 to inquire into the situation of human rights in Chile. In 1979, the working group was replaced by a special rapporteur and two experts to study the fate of the disappeared people in Chile. This led to the establishment of the first thematic special procedure in 1980, the Working Group on Enforced Disappearances, to deal with the question of enforced disappearances throughout the world, by way of Resolution 20. 10 years later, in 1990, there were 6 thematic procedure mandates covering enforced disappearances, extrajudicial, summary or arbitrary executions, religious intolerance, mercenaries, torture and sale of children. Since then, many new mandates have been established to deal with human rights challenges in the various parts of the world. They now cover all regions and rights of civil, cultural, economic, political and social character. The United Nations Human Rights Council serves several functions, one of which is to promote and monitor human rights worldwide through the establishment of special procedures. Special procedures are nothing, they are individual independent human rights experts or groups of such experts who report and advise on human rights issues. They are called by many names, including special rapporteurs, special representatives, working groups and independent experts. Special procedures have either thematic or country specific mandates. As of October 2020, the Human Rights Council oversees 44 thematic mandates and 11 country specific mandates. The combined work of the special rapporteurs is broad enough to encompass civil, political, economic, social and cultural rights. Special procedures mandate holders are not UN staff. They are not paid a salary for their work and do not represent their countries of citizenship. Rather, they serve in the personal capacities. Each mandate holder may serve for a maximum of 6 years. They enjoy independent status so that these experts can carry out their functions with impartiality. In fulfilling their responsibilities, mandate holders enjoy the support of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and in case of mandate holders in academia, they may also benefit from institutional support from their universities. Human Rights Council adopted the special procedures created by its predecessor, the UN Commission on Human Rights, upon its establishment in 2006. The Human Rights Council has continued and even extended the mandates of many country specific and thematic special procedures. Let us look at the principal functions of these procedures. Generally, in the process of carrying out their mandates, special procedures may do a number of tasks. For example, undertake in-person country visits to assess human rights violations, communicate directly with states on alleged human rights violation by sending urgent appeals or letters of allegation, make recommendations to states for preventing, ending or remedying violations, convene expert consultations, conduct thematic studies, raise awareness of human rights issues, provide advice for adherence to human rights standards, receive information from individuals and civil society, engage in advocacy, and to contribute to the overall development of human rights standards. Let us elaborate a little bit on some of the functions of these special procedures. Let us look at the country visits. At the invitation of states, mandate holders carry out country visits to analyze the human rights situation at the national level. Some countries have issued standing invitations to special procedures, which means that they are prepared to receive a visit from any thematic holder as they please. As of 27th May 2020, 126 member states and one non-member observer state has extended a standing invitation to thematic special procedures. At the end of their visits, special procedures mandate holders engage in dialogue with the state on their findings and recommendations and present a report to the Human Rights Council as well. Let us look at another procedure that is called communications. Most special procedures receive information on specific allegations of human rights violations and send communications in the form of urgent appeals, allegation and other letters to states and occasionally to non-state actors as well, asking for clarification and action. Mandate holders may send letters to states seeking information about legal policy or structural developments, submitting observations or following up on recommendations. The annual facts and figures provided as an annex to the special procedures as annual report since 2018, it provides an overview of the total communications sent and related information is also recorded. Communications sent and the responses received are reported at each regular session to the Human Rights Council. There are other set of activities also which are undertaken. Let us have a look at that. Either at the request of the Human Rights Council or at the initiative of the mandate holders, special procedures do a lot of works. For example, prepare thematic studies, develop human rights standards and guidelines, participate in expert consultations, seminars and conferences, organize panels during the sessions of the Human Rights Council, organize consultations with a wide range of actors at the national, regional and international level, raise public awareness about specific human rights situations and phenomena attesting threats to and violations of human rights through public statements and interaction with a wide variety of partners with respect to that. There is impeccable coordination amongst the special procedures. Let us have a look at that also. Coordination Committee of Special Procedures and the annual meeting of special procedures is held for the purpose. At their annual meeting in 2005, for example, special procedures mandate holders established a coordination committee to facilitate coordination amongst mandate holders and to act as a bridge between them and the OHCHR, the broader UN human rights framework and all the other stakeholders. Annual meetings of special procedures mandate holders have been organized since 1994. The meeting is intended to better coordinate and harmonize the work of the special procedures and for mandate holders to address topical issues. It also gives them the opportunity to exchange views with states, the President of Human Rights Council, regional human rights organizations, national human rights institutions, representatives from OHCHR and UN entities and civil society organizations, etc. There is a certain code of conduct and working methods of the special procedures also. The code of conduct adopted by the Council in 2007 and the manual of operations adopted by special procedures mandate holders during their annual meeting in 2008 provide guidelines on the working methods of special procedures. Mandate holders also establish an internal advisory procedure to review practices and working methods which allows any stakeholder to bring issues relating to working methods and conduct to the attention of the coordination committee. The procedure was devised to enhance the independence and effectiveness of special procedures and cooperation by states and to contribute to self-regulation of the special procedures system and individual mandate holders. After the special procedures mandate holders assess a specific human rights situation, they may report their findings or thematic studies to the Human Rights Council or the UN General Assembly and release public statements to the media. It is important to note that the Human Rights Council reviews country-specific mandates annually and thematic mandates every 3 years. Let us look at the nomination and appointment process. The Human Rights Council Resolution 5/1 provides for the criteria for their selection and appointment. The general eligibility criteria includes that the nominee's expertise should be of certain standard, he or she should have experience in the field of the mandate, should be independent, impartial, should enjoy personal integrity and objectivity. In addition to these, there are certain specific criteria also necessary to ensure all mandate holders that they are highly qualified individuals, including the nominee's established competence, relevant expertise and professional experience in the field of human rights. The Human Rights Council also considers gender balance, geographic representation and representation of different legal systems when appointing mandate holders. Conflict of interest, such as holding a position in the government, will disqualify an individual from consideration. As per the resolution 16/21, it adds national human rights institutions that comply with the Paris principles to the list of entities able to nominate candidates. The OHCHR also maintains a public list of eligible candidates for the position of special procedures mandate holder. Governments of member states, regional groups operating within the United Nations human rights system, international organizations or their offices, other human rights bodies and also individuals may nominate candidates to be special procedures mandate holders. After the nominations are done, the Human Rights Council appoints a consultative group to review all applications and propose a list of candidates to the President of the Human Rights Council. In doing so, the consultative group takes into account the views of the stakeholders, including the current or outgoing mandate holders, in deciding the particular requirements for each mandate. With respect to the consultative group's recommendations, the President of the Council appoints an appropriate candidate for each vacant mandate with approval by the Council's member states. So, the process in short would be like this. Independent United Nations experts of the Human Rights Council are appointed through a competitive and transparent process which involves interested parties which fill in an online written application in response to a call for candidatures issued by the Secretariat. Shortlisted candidates are then interviewed by telephone by the consultative group composed by 5 ambassadors nominated by each of the 5 regional groups. The consultative group makes recommendations to the President of the Human Rights Council through its public report. The appointment is finalized when the selected candidates put forward by the President is approved by the Human Rights Council. Now, look at the nature of the special procedures so that we understand them a little better. Special procedures are either an individual, as I mentioned earlier also, called special rapporteur or independent expert, or a working group composed of 5 members, one from each of the 5 United Nations regional groupings, that is Africa, Asia, Latin America and the Caribbean, Eastern Europe and the Western group. The special rapporteurs, independent experts and members of the working groups are appointed by the Human Rights Council and serve in their personal capacities, as we already talked about. Special procedures have a defined scope of work. They undertake country visits, they act on individual cases of alleged violations and concerns for a broader structural nature by sending communications to the states. They conduct thematic studies and convene expert consultations, contributing to the development of international human rights standards. They engage in advocacy and raise public awareness and provide advice for the technical cooperation. Special procedures report annually to the Human Rights Council, and the majority of the mandates also report annually to the General Assembly. As we said earlier that the special procedures are also of different kinds. Let us now look into the details of these kinds. Thematic special procedures. 44 thematic special procedures have been established till date. Some of these are Working Group on People of African Descent, Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, Working Group on Enforced or Involuntary Disappearances, Working Group on the use of mercenaries as a means of impeding the exercise of the rights of people to self-determination, etc. There are independent experts as well. For example, independent expert on the promotion of a democratic and equitable international order, independent expert on the effects of foreign debt and other related international financial obligations of states on full enjoyment of human rights, particularly economic, social and cultural rights. Independent expert on human rights and international solidarity. Independent expert on the enjoyment of all human rights by older persons. Independent expert on protection against violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Then there are special rapporteurs, and some examples of these we would look into. Special rapporteur on adequate housing as a component of the right to an adequate standard of living and on the right to non-discrimination in this context. Special rapporteur on the sale of children, child prostitution and child pornography. Special rapporteur in the field of cultural rights. Special rapporteur on the right to development. Special rapporteur on the rights of persons with disabilities. Special rapporteur on the right to education and many more. There are country specific special rapporteurs as well. There are some 11 country specific special procedures that are active. Let us have a look at them. Independent expert on the situation of human rights in Central African Republic of Mali and Somalia. Special rapporteur on the situations of human rights in Belarus, Cambodia, Eritrea, the Democratic Islamic Republic of Iran, Myanmar, in the Palestinian territories occupied since 1967, the Syrian Arab Republic, etc. The Human Rights Council works with the support of the Office of United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR. Let us look into the details of this very important office of the UN. The Office of United Nations Human Rights Commissioner for Human Rights, commonly known as the Office of the High Commissioner or the UN Human Rights Office, is a department of the Secretariat of the United Nations dedicated to promote and protect the human rights as per international universal standards. The office was established by the UN General Assembly on 20th December 1993 at the 1993 World Conference on Human Rights. The High Commissioner for Human Rights heads the office and coordinates human rights activities throughout the UN system and acts as the Secretariat of the Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland. The OHCHR derives its authority from Article 1, Article 13 and Article 55 of the UN Charter, also from the Vienna Declaration of Programme of Action, and also from General Assembly Resolution 48/141 of 20th December 1993, by which the Assembly established the post of United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. In connection with the Programme for Reform of the United Nations, by virtue of A/51/950, specifically in para 79, the OHCHR and the Center for Human Rights were consolidated into single OHCHR office on 15th September 1997. Now, what are the objectives of this office? Let us have a look at that. Promote universal enjoyment of all human rights by giving practical effect to the will and resolve of the world community as expressed by the United Nations. It plays the leading role on human rights issues and emphasizes the importance of human rights at international and national levels. Promote international cooperation for human rights. Stimulate and coordinate action for human rights throughout the United Nations system. Promote universal ratification and implementation of international standards. Assist the development of new norms. Support human rights organs and treaty monitoring bodies. Respond to serious violations of human rights. Undertake preventive human rights action. Promote the establishment of national human rights infrastructures. Undertake human rights field activities and operations. Provide education, information advisory services and technical assistance in the field of human rights. The OHCHR is divided into organizational units as discussed ahead in the lecture. The OHCHR is headed by a High Commissioner with the rank of Under Secretary General. We have just seen the complex and interesting nature of these special procedures under the United Nations system. The system of special procedure is a central theme of the United Nations human rights machinery and covers all kinds of human rights: civil, cultural, economic, political and social. In the context of 2011 review of its work and functioning, the Human Rights Council reaffirmed the obligation of states to cooperate with these special procedures. It reiterated the integrity and independence of special procedures. The Council also reaffirmed the principles of cooperation, transparency and accountability and the role of system of special procedures in enhancing the capacity of the Human Rights Council to address human rights situations. Member states confirmed their strong opposition to reprisals against persons cooperating with the United Nations and its human rights mechanism and representatives. The Council further recognized the importance of ensuring transparent, adequate and equitable funding to support all special procedures according to their specific needs in the resolution 16/21. Hence, the importance of these procedures is pronounced very clearly. The Council also urged all the member states, even the non-member states, to cooperate with these procedures. For now, that should be it for today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed the content of the lecture and felt intrigued by the idea of special procedures of human rights itself. We will keep discussing special procedures further on also. Till then, keep learning and stay happy. Thank you.